So this is our next lesson on Greece versus Persia. We've looked at the Persian Empire. We're going to spend a couple of lessons looking at what we call ancient Greece. So we'll learn about Greece circa 550 to 480 BC. Circa means about, around about that time. Circa, around about that time. Yeah, that's what that word means if you ever see it in an exam, circa. To understand why it developed in this way, Greece is quite a strange place at this point in history. We're going to develop analytical skills, thinking skills. Why? Not what's happening, but why is it happening? Keywords are topography, the shape of the land, how high it is, how low it is, rivers, valleys, mountains. Mountainous, isolated. If you're all by yourself with nothing else around you, you are what we call isolated. Rugged terrain. Very high mountains, not much growing on them, very cold, very rocky. It's what we call rugged terrain. Terrain meaning the shape of the land. Fertile, land where if you plant seeds, things grow. It's fertile. Independent, rule yourself. Polis, in italics here, is a Greek word. It means city-state. We'll talk about it in a minute. Greece was divided into lots of polis, city-states. Citizens, if you live in a city, you're a citizen. Aristocrats, rich and posh people who are in charge. Oligarchy, when a collection of aristocrats rules a place together, when the rich and the powerful get together and run a place, it's called an oligarchy. Tyranny, when one person runs a place using force. Tyranny, you're a tyrant. Religion, Delphi, it's a place in Greece. Olympics, as in the sporting events. Hellas. Hellas, which I'll talk about at the end of the lesson. Right, let's start. So, Greece. Number one, existence. First thing to get your head around. There's no, at the time we're talking about, sort of 480 to 550 BC, there's no such place as Greece. I mean, it exists. Here it is. Here's the map. That's Greece. But it's not called Greece. It doesn't exist. It's not one country. They all speak Greek. They're all Greeks, but there isn't a government. There isn't a king. It's not really a country. Secondly, topography. Greece is extremely rugged and mountainous. If you look at this map here, that's Greece. And you can see it's virtually all mountains. As a comparison, there's Britain. The green bits are the flat land. As you can see, where we are down here, it's nearly all flat. There are some small mountains up in the north of Scotland. There are some quite big mountains. No one lives there. Or not very many people live there. England is mostly flat and fertile. Compare that to Greece, which is virtually all mountain. Lots of little valleys between the mountains. The valleys are very isolated from each other. I mean, there's no roads in those days, no proper roads anyway. So here's a typical Greek scene. It's all mountains and valleys. Yeah. Nearly all of Greece, apart from the coast, is like this. Mountains, high mountains, valleys in between them. Yeah. So that's the topography of ancient Greece. So it's not a country. It's a collection of little cities that all rule themselves. They're all independent. They're called polis, or city-states. On this map here are some of them. At some point in history, there were over 900 separate polis. There's Athens. Sparta, for some reason on here, is just there. Argos, Delphi, Thebes, Boeotia, yeah. Thessaly, Messene, which is actually conquered by the Spartans. So it's split into lots of city-states. Probably the most famous of one is Athens. There's a picture of Athens, what we think it looked like in its classical era. There's the Acropolis, there's the Parthenon, you might have heard of that. And these polis are not that large. Maybe between 20 and 30,000 people, about the size of New Addington. Yeah. But they have their own government, their own laws, they run themselves. Yeah. So one polis can't tell another one what to do. And there's no kings in any of these. So who rules? Well, in most of them, it's what's called an oligarchy. The very rich men, and it's always men, who own the land, the rich landowners, they tend to get together and run things. That's where these strange garments come from in history. You wear this stupid clothing because you're showing to people, I don't work. Therefore, I can afford to wear something really impractical and stupid. So oligarchies were groups of rich and powerful families who got together to run most of the cities at first. And if that didn't work, if that wasn't effective, sometimes one particular bloke would step forward and become a tyrant, and the city would become a tyranny. So Athens, at the start of our story, is an oligarchy. It then becomes a tyranny when a guy called Hippias takes over. This is a statue of Hippias, an Athenian tyrant. It just means you rule by yourself using force. Anyone owes you, you haven't killed. You've got a little army at your back. That's tyranny. Greek unity, question mark. Well, at this point in history, there isn't that much Greek unity. They have the same language. They all speak Greek. They all believe in the same gods. Zeus, father of the gods. Pan, where the word panic comes from. They believe that you can contact the gods at Delphi, the oracle. You ask the questions and the oracle will tell you the future because the oracle is told it by the gods. So they believe in, so they have that sort of unity. And linked to that, popular language, gods, the Olympics. The Olympics is a religious thing to the Greeks. Every 4 years they gather at the city-state of Olympia to have these games. And during this time they weren't allowed to fight. The different city-states would all send their athletes there. This is a wrestling match, as you don't know if you know this, but nearly all ancient Greek sport take place in the nude. So wrestling here, and you're not allowed to fight during the Olympics. Yeah, because it's sacred. The gods have organised the Olympics, they say. To fight, to cheat, would be to upset the gods. This is a race here, a running race, a 400-metre sprint, we think, called the Hoplotdramus, if I remember rightly. And you got to wear the helmet and the shield while you're running. You're training for war, in effect. So Greek unity, there wasn't that much of it, but there was a little bit: language, religion, the Olympics. And finally, the idea of Hellas. The Greeks weren't one country. They did often see themselves as one people. This light-coloured thing here, this is where Greeks lived. So here's Greece, but Greeks also settled all up here, all over here, and down in here. These are all Greeks, and this area together is referred to as Hellas. Hellas is the area where Greek people lived. And you'll notice, and I hope you remember, here's the problem. This bit of land here is conquered by the Persians, and Greeks live there. So Persians have conquered part of Hellas.